Welcome to Swift Programming Language. This is episode 7, and today I wanted to talk to you on the ways to run Swift in the terminal in the command line. So there are 3 ways. Let's start with my favorite way. So in this case you can evaluate just a single file. And to do it, let's first create a file. And inside we will write a simple program which will just print a string hello world. Okay. And to evaluate this single file, you provide a command Swift, and then you provide a name of the file. And then Swift will evaluate it, it will compile it in the background, and it will run it immediately after. This is the simplest way, and it doesn't create any extra files, so this is my favorite way. But of course there are other ways. The second way is to run a Swift REPL. So I cannot show you it here because I'm here connected to Raspberry Pi, and it doesn't support REPL, so it will not show to you what it is. But basically it's a mode where you provide Swift lines for Swift programming language one by one directly in the console. I can show you how it works for Python, another programming language, and for Swift it's basically the same thing, but for it to work you need an x86 computer, because I never saw it working on ARM. But I can show you Python. It is basically the same thing. You provide with the input field, and there you can provide some operations. Here I assigned variable I to 0, then I can add to I 1, and let's see what's now inside our I variable, and we can see that it's now 1, and we can define another variable, let's call it B. We can see what will be I plus B, and etc. So it's kind of interesting for research projects when you're like programming on the fly, and you're performing operations on data directly from this console. So you can use it in these situations, but I find it still easier to just create a file and then run this file. It's easier for me. So, and the third way to run Swift from the terminal is to create an executable. So to show you, I will create another folder. Let's call it third way. Let's go inside this folder, and we will use a part of Swift language called Swift Package Manager, and using this Swift Package Manager we will initialize an executable. Sounds like a lot, but what it does, it creates all the files we need for executable in the required structure, and basically it automates a lot of actions for us. But let's first do it. So to do it, you provide Swift package init, and then you provide type. So there are two types popular that are popular. The most common, of course, I think it's executable. It means that this program will be able to be executed directly. And another type is library. It is when you create something that will not be executed directly, but can be used to support another project. So let's try executable. Okay, we can see that it created a lot of files for us. Inside the first folder, inside the main folder, we can see there is a package.swift, readme, and two folders, sources and tests. And inside sources, it created a folder called three-way, which is the name of the folder we were initially in. And let's look inside this three-way folder. It created a single Swift file and named it main.swift. So yeah, so basically it created a lot of files, and these files support creation and running of a program that can consist of a lot of files and can have dependencies on other projects. So not to complicate it too much, let's just say that we have this main.swift file which was generated automatically. Let's look inside of it. We can see it generated just one line, which is printing hello world. Let's maybe change it to something else. Let's say it will just print hi. And that's it. So now we have our custom program, custom Swift executable, and for this you can first build it using command swift build. Basically what it does, it grabs all dependencies if there are any. It also compiles all the Swift files, and it also links. So it does a lot of operations. You don't have to know everything it does, but basically after build you will be able to run this application. And to run it we use another command, which is swift run. Swift run. And here it evaluated everything inside our file. Actually you can skip Swift build, and it will first build and then immediately run if you want. Swift build command, if we can check right here, we can see that Swift build command actually generated a folder called .build. And let me show, if I delete this folder completely, so now we don't have it here. Let me show you that if I use just Swift run, it will first build and then execute the project. So you can see it first did 4 steps and then printed hi, and we can see that build folder is now back. Why would you use this Swift package executable? You will use it in case you want to have multiple Swift files, or if you have some dependencies. So I will not show you dependencies now, but let's create another Swift file. We will call it let's call it logger.swift, and inside this file we will create a struct called logger, and for this struct, let's say we have a function initialize that will print string logger is initialized. So here we just defined a data type logger and provide some function for it. Oh, actually you don't need parentheses here, I suppose. So let's save it. And then we can use our other Swift file, which is the main file. We can add more here. We can create another variable called logger, which is of type logger, and then let's run logger.initialize. So basically now I have two files, and inside one file I define this object logger, and inside the main file I use it. So now let's try Swift run. Oh, I missed the letter here. Okay, now we can see that it first printed hi and then printed logger is initialized. So it evaluated both our Swift files. Maybe one last thing to say for this last way to run Swift. This main.swift, actually you can change the name, it doesn't matter, but what matters is you have only one file which executes code. So you can have definitions and declarations in other files. You can create data types, functions, and classes, and etc. But the file that actually executes code, it will be a single file, and usually it's called main.swift. So this is what you can use as well. You cannot have multiple files executing code directly, because then a compiler will not know which file is actually the main one, which file it should execute first. So that's it. If you have questions or suggestions or any comments, please leave them in the section below. And I will see you in the next video.